Hi, I'm RobCosman. Welcome to my shop. This is episode 27. I looked it up before we filmed, of our drawer making series, marathon, whatever you want to call it. I usually start off by showing you a piece of furniture that I've built in the past, but running out. So I thought we'd go over this. So in our online workshop, which you're always welcome to join. In fact, if you're interested, you can get a free month to try it out. There's over 2,000, maybe as many as 2,500 episodes on there from various pieces of furniture that we've built. We started in 2011. And in order to do that, we'll put in a link to the video that you go to that'll give you the code that'll allow you to go on and get your free month. So that's what we're building in this workshop. And yesterday we finished this. So this is the part that's going to, as you I'll sit up top of there, and it'll hold your envelopes. We're going to have some floating dividers, which is kind of a cool idea, so that we didn't have to. I didn't want to put dados along there where you would change your dividers. I didn't want to have them permanent because things change. So one of the guys on the online workshop gave me a good idea of kind of a T-shaped, if you can imagine that.
Upside down, right?
Yeah, upside down T. So a little bit complicated about this because we had to, you didn't want a sharp knife edge here and reaching in around that. So, but in order to have a flat here and have this end, you had to have that drop right at the bottom, and that had to be done all beforehand. Up here, you've got a chamfer on the inside, and you had to have this stop right at the base of the chamfer. So kind of some complicated stuff. These are through wedge tenons. And this one wasn't bad because I could do this one first and then do this one, then do this one. But on that end, you had to do all three at the same time. But the through wedge tenon is, it's just a really nice joint. That's a piece of, those wedges are made out of holly, and they match up the ones that are on the rest of the case. Today, or what our next move is, we've got to go in and finish playing this surface, finish playing that surface. I had to pre-finish the inside because it would be impossible to spray down in there without getting an excess spray on the outside, on the flat surfaces. So I'll have to mask it all off and then just spray the exterior. And then we've got to flush up the bottom. And we're going to mount this with, we'll dowel it in place. The idea was, in order to make this, if you can imagine trying to spray that whole thing at once, it would be impossible. You wouldn't get anywhere near this finished, and the finish would be drying elsewhere, and then you're dealing with overspray. So it's been done in 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. Yeah, no, 5 sections actually, because we sprayed the top is completely finished, but everything from the top down has only got a protective coat on it. That's got to be completely redone or finished. This is done. This is done. We'll spray this separately and then assemble it all so there's no spraying of it, the whole thing together. So the last thing, only dilemma I'm dealing with right now, and this was kind of designed on the fly, was when this is in place, I wanted this to act as a stop for the lid. And I think we're going to be okay because the balance point for the lid is right about there. So when it's sitting there, it's definitely be on the back side of the balancing point, so it's not going to come collapsing on top of you. And I don't think there's enough gravity pull at that point to leave a mark on either that point or onto there. I thought about coming in and cutting just a little, you wouldn't call it a chamfer, but a little flat, corresponding flat spot on this. You can't apply anything because it would look terrible. And I'm not so sure I want to put a flat spot on there either because I think it would just stand out too much. But we'll have to wait and see how it's going to work. Anyway, got some good ideas on what we're going to do with the drawers. So when this is all over, if you want to stay up to date with it, you might have to join. Put that over there because I don't want it falling off. But today's task is to finish this. And I'm going to take a bit of a break at first and just go in and finish playing the dovetails on the front. Give myself an opportunity to do a little more thinking on how we're going to tackle this. So just shy of 14, 12 inches is probably, I can get away with that. So I'm just going to turn this around the other way and use it as a support. We'll be playing that front edge. Now see if we can pick up grain direction. I think it's going to want to go right to left. You know what? That bounces around so much when it's not. I'll try it. Now, this is actually a little bit proud of the tail, so I'm just going to do it carefully. The last thing you want to do in this situation is blow off any part of this, because you're essentially planing across the end grain of the holly tails, and they risk splitting. But the pins, the cherry is a little bit proud, so I might be able to go in there. I'll get really close, then I'll probably just come in and plane this way a little bit, and then plane off until I just meet right there at the point. Now, anytime you find glue blobs on there, you want to take them off first. If not, what happens is they hold your plane at an angle, and that kind of throws off everything else. So I'll just go in there, keeping my chisel flat. Get rid of those. Now this surface doesn't really matter because this is all going to be hidden underneath that end lap. We still have a lot of work to do actually. Now when you're doing this, the other problem you got to run into too is you're going to end up tearing this side. You got to think about all these things. It's not that big of a deal, but I like to go in there and fix it if I can. Where's my... Is this my Jake?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to cut a little chamfer like that.
Is that necessary though?
What, this 1/4 inch IBC, this 1/8 inch
Well,
IBC
that's
chisel?
necessary, but I'm talking about chamfering that.
Well, if you don't, it just keeps breaking, and it's annoying. But whenever you're planing something like this, you always got to factor in. When I was planing the surface on that top piece the other day, there's one little tiny area that is left unsupported, and you got to go in. If you don't do it, then you're gonna suffer with broken fibers. What's the blade like in this? Any idea?
Mm-mm.
I'll find out soon enough. Whoa. That's way over to the right. I should have looked, but I couldn't see it at that fine. Now, while I'm planing, I'm advancing the blade. I'm still having... That is too loose. Sometimes that advances the blade, like it just did. I had a really nice phone call today from a friend in Toronto. His name is Bruno, and he has a restaurant called Grazi's, Italian restaurant. And I met him a long time ago when we first did. I gotta sharpen this. Stay with me, and we'll sharpen this together. He met him a long time ago when I was doing a wood show in Toronto with my two daughters, Erica and Carissa. They were only 14 and 12, and he invited us to his restaurant. Well, it was a nice restaurant, and his grandmother's recipe for tiramisu was absolutely incredible. Anyway, we stayed in contact, and he called. I didn't know he's been watching all of these and following us on the Saturday Night Live workshops and our Purple Heart project. Of course, being in the restaurant business, his restaurant has been shut down, although they're now doing some takeout. But he wanted to help. So he offered to send us several cases of their cookbook, and we will use it as part of a prize we're going to build for when we do the every time we do that live broadcast. We do it as a fundraiser for our Purple Heart Project, where we bring in combat wounded veterans 6 times a year and treat them to a 6-day hand tool workshop. And as a thank you, we always have a draw at the end of the night for 4 different prizes, and I've been supplying them. But I thought, wouldn't it be nice if people wanted to, businesses that wanted to do that, wanted to contribute in a different way. So anyway, we're going to include that, and I just wanted to give a shout out to them. So if you're ever in the Toronto area and you want some incredible Italian food, Grazi's. Look them up. They have a website. Thank you, Bruno. All right, I'm working on a 500 grit. This is Jake's stone, not mine. I usually use 1000. And I'm creating what we call a secondary bevel. Now, what I'm really doing is wiping out the previous tertiary bevel and creating a new secondary as a result. And you do that until you can feel a slight burr on the back side of the blade. I wasn't paying attention, but it should only take about 10 seconds. Now I'm on my 16,000 grit. Same thing, only elevate the blade a little bit higher to create what we call a tertiary or a third bevel. At the end of about 10 seconds of work, downward pressure on one corner for 3 seconds, followed by the opposite corner for 3 seconds. Don't change your angle. And then follow up with the modified Charlesworth ruler trick. I say modified only because you're only spending 3 seconds deburring the back. Wipe off all the moisture, because any will cause it to rust. Take your chip breaker, put it on like this. Now I find rather than swinging it around there and risking that fresh edge, I'm going to pull it back here. Then I can move it over. Now I can hold it like that, and I got lots of control. And I'll just slide that forward. All kinds of crap on there, not that it matters. I'll clean it off occasionally eventually. Get that to about a 32nd of an inch of the edge. Snug it up. Now, you want that really tight, because part of the adjustment of the blade occurs through contact with the chip breaker. The yoke right here engages the chip breaker and pushes the blade forward or retracts it. Thick shaving, thin shaving. So if it's not tight, this will slide without bringing the blade with it. And those are screwdrivers that we offer on our site. And the advantage is you can get a little good grip, great grip, but the tip, there's no taper. So when that sits, we actually go in there and modify that. When that sits in there, it makes contact all the way up and down the sides, and you don't risk wrecking that screw, particularly if it's a brass one. Set that in place. 3 points of contact. Back of the blade on the face of the frog. You want that nice and clean. Make sure there's no debris on there. Yoke right here goes through the blade and engages that little rectangular slot on the chip breaker. Lateral adjustment lever has a bearing on the end, and that has to fit in the long slot on the back of the blade. So as you put that in, you kind of have to wiggle it a little bit to feel when it makes contact everywhere. Put the lever cap on. Now put it on with enough pressure that it won't move accidentally, but not so much pressure that you can't make adjustments. So I always gauge it based on the movement of the lateral adjustment lever. And as long as I can do that with relative ease, it's good to go. Light colored background. Wipe one way. Turn the adjuster knob in a clockwise rotation as you look at it. And that will bring your blade out. Now I've got my plane tipped just enough so that I can see down the sole. And right here, I see a thin black line. Well, that's your blade. And you want that to be parallel to the sole. In this case, I want it so that I'm not leaving plane tracks. If you're doing an edge, something like this, you want it so that as you plane, you're not taking more off one side or the other and throwing it at a square. So I do that by eye first. Make any adjustments I have to down here. Then I'm going to retract it. So now I'm spinning the adjuster knob opposite direction. And as it starts to disappear, it'll allow you to make a finer adjustment. And then I always pull it all the way in. Why? Because I don't want to be surprised by having that blade dig in more than I anticipated. Now, once that's done, I can start planing and at the same time spinning the adjuster knob and watching to see where the first bit of shaving appears. Okay, so it seems to be coming out on my left, and it's coming out to the left of center. I don't know why that's bouncing like that. Yeah, I got a sneaky suspicion that we might be up above 45. I'll explain to you what I mean. When you first learn to freehand sharpen, this happens occasionally. You end up raising your blade up a little higher than it should be, and as a result, the heel touches instead of the toe. So what I'm going to do, just to verify this, find something that'll hold the blade at 45 degrees, which mimics the frog, set that on there, and then as I push it, I should feel the plane of the blade engage. And it does, so that's not the problem. Occasionally I'll get somebody that's been in the class, they'll call, say, Rob, what is going on with this plane? It will not work. Or it'll bite the beginning and then it jumps out. And that's usually the case, so that's the easiest way to check it. And if you find that it was too high, well, you just have to go and create a new secondary bevel. Unless you're really messed it up, you may have to go regrind. All right, let's get at this again. Not 100% happy with this blade. Okay, let's do something different here. This is becoming a pain. I don't want to be smacking those with my plane. I always manage to find a dog hole whenever I do this. Okay, I'm not going to fight with this anymore. There's something going on here, and I don't know what it is. I didn't get enough of a burr. Well, let's try it again. I'm going to go in and use my diamond plate, which I've let sit in water and rust, but it's more aggressive. There, now I got a good burr. It's almost always a sharpening issue. All right, let's try this again. What have I got, Jake, that I can wipe that off with? Lacquer thinner right there.
No.
You get the pitch buildup, particularly if you're using pine. I wonder if that acetone will take it off. I know I got that can of lacquer. There it is right down there. Not that it affects the performance so much, but it was just irritating. Excuse me. Okay, get that blade. That's better. Lesson learned. Don't fight with it. Stop and redo it. Now, I've got more material on this end than I do on that end. And I don't want to go down too low because then it makes those pins look bigger. So, what I need to do is just be really careful out here. Go about halfway, meaning I'm starting somewhere in around here. I've got that set for a very fine cut. I'm not in a hurry. Now I'm flush there, still heavy down on this end. You notice I'm backing up a little more each time. Now I can still see some pen mark, but that feels flush. Does here too, so I'll go full length. Okay, so I was pulling off holly on both passes, or both ends. So that's good. Now I got a little chip right there that I'm probably gonna have to fix. I may go and just do a little repair work and glue a piece back on before I put that face piece on. Now this is the tough part, believe it or not, trying to get that last little bit to work. And the question is, am I too tight here or am I getting tight at the back? And if you're working on this and it's actually the back, then you sacrifice the fit right here where it closes. So this is where I'm going to use my 1000 shim. It'll soon be time to clean. Everything gets accumulated behind me because I'm in the middle of doing something and I stack it there and then I can't find the wall anymore. Okay. Okay, I can't even get that 1 thou in there. I wonder how we are at the top. All right, it's not too tight there, and I can see it over here, so I know I'm fine over here too. Come on, bend. Okay. Hard because I can't push this in any farther without losing or not being able to get a hold of it. I need a pair of gloves. Get a better grip. Okay. So I'm just sighting down there and looking for any area that seems to be burnished as a result of rubbing really hard. Maybe up there on the top. What are you looking at?
Here.
Oh yeah. Can you
Heavily
pick that up on the camera? Why don't you try? You seeing it?
I think it's just too white.
Try from my perspective, because I can see it real easy.
No, I got it.
You got it?
I think so.
So, okay, gotta go back to where I was. And I've tried enhancing that with chalk. Seems that the easiest way is just to look for the burnish spot in the wood. Sometimes you can see in there too, because if there was an area in there that's just a spot that left a little bit of material from planing, and it will show up. No, that's just wax. Who would have ever thought that a flashlight was a drawer making tool? Okay, pull that in. I don't want to risk having it out farther than I thought. Now there's what I'm down to in terms of getting this final fit. You're really dealing with really fine shavings. And I would rather do this 50 times, pulling dust off like that, and get my fit the way I want, than to go in there for the sake of time and take too heavy of a shaving and have to live with it. Maybe a little bit down there in the bottom, but I'm also looking at that. Might be an area right there on the top. I don't know what I was doing here with that setup. Shoot, risky to do that without checking it first. That was way too aggressive. Okay, before I do the side, I'm going to try that. Now, I'm going to turn this around and look. Okay, so I got some stuff going on up here too, which is good because you can't see it, but I can still see some glue residue. And I haven't been doing anything to the front. So I'm going to come in here. Take a really light cleanup pass across the entire width of the front. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I can see the glue residue on the ends of the pins. Feel ridiculous with these gloves on, but I don't want to keep taking them on and off just to plane. Check this side. Oh yeah, this has got it too. So the next one I'll do is that side. You know, I just said that, and we're not even in there. So this is just from the original cleanup. So that obviously isn't the problem. Duh. Right? We haven't gone in. We haven't sunk the drawer in that far. So there's obviously nothing going on here. But what I was looking at was just the glue residue on there that I had to get rid of anyway. No, there's more there. Okay, now that's not going to do anything because we're not touching the area that's causing the problem. Now that looks like there's a lot of burnishing going on top of there. Let's take one pass and see. Okay, let's do some work on this. I say that only because in order to finish this, we've got to have to sink that in farther. I'm probably going to have to put a screw in here or something. It'll be covered when we put the veneer on there, but at least we'll have something we can hold on to. All right, I'll take these off. Okay, so this is proud. Be smarter than that. I'm going to hold this against Jake. I don't want to change that because I need it. Just give me a bench down. Almost. Really reluctant to touch that. So the bottom, the side is actually a little bit proud of this. And I hate touching the bottom of the drawer. I'm not going to touch it just yet. See what we got going on at the top. This is proud. All right, we'll take... I'm going to use my 5.5 on that. So we're not pulling much off. Now this is still sharp, so I'm going to come in here and just knock that corner off.
And the shim?
Mm-hmm. No, I know I still have to take some more off of here because I can tell it's quite a bit higher. I hate doing it because I don't want a gap at all. And this piece came out of there, and it's exact. So any amount I take off of here, what?
No, it didn't.
What? No, what didn't?
That didn't come out of there.
Right, right. Why didn't you tell me that sooner?
You just said it.
You should have known what I was thinking. Right. So in case you're like me, this one, that piece came out of there. That was the exact piece, and I forgot. This is a different piece. We're going to add that face off of the screwed up drawer onto here. So this piece, thank you, Jake. This piece,
what I was saying was, it's probably too tall.
It is. But I was thinking, I said, yeah. It was too tall by a lot, and I remember leaving it considerably proud. Now, let's just check that to make sure I'm keeping it square. If any of you have been looking for PEC squares, they have been closed down because of the coronavirus, but we just got word that a big shipment has been sent, which means we should have it in about a week's time. And if you don't know PEC, I think they make, well, I'm of the opinion that their gear is comparable to the big name brands that charge a heck of a lot more. So we use their combination square, their solid steel squares, the straight edges that you see in the back of the tool cabinet, the dividers, sliding T-bevel protractor. In fact, if you haven't already heard this, my 12-inch square is a Starrett, and I think it sells for $700 or $800. I bought it used. The PEC 12-inch, what do we sell for?
Just shy of 100.
And we checked it with a 1,000 shim, and it was right on. Okay, I got to pay attention to what I'm doing. I'm flush. I'm proud. So, stroke from here to about there. Stroke from here to about there. And somewhere in here I ended. No, I can do one more. As long as you elevate or lift the plane off while you're still in a forward motion, you won't end up leaving what we call a skin tag out there. Okay, we're still tight. Actually, what we didn't check was to see if we are high in the middle. And we are, because that'll pivot. So if I hold this like so, see that? Lots of room to move. So I got to get rid of that high point. Let's see if we can identify it. Okay. So we'll go in here. We'll take a pass from there to there. Then we'll take a pass from thumb to finger. Then we'll take a pass from there to there. Come back in, take another pass out of the middle, and just keep walking it back and carrying it forward. Now, let's check this. Okay, so the fact that that moved, okay, so that should be within a thou. That looks better. You hungry, Jake?
Mm-hmm.
Now, am I hitting at the bottom? Am I hitting at the top? Same thing on the bottom. So if we plane this way, odds are we're going to plane in this direction, working on the bottom. Oh yeah. Big bump. Now this is going to be a problem because I'm going to run into that.
Are you?
Pretty hard not to.
But you didn't run full length.
Right, but the plane's still going to hit it. Okay, I'll show you what I can do on the bottom, which I usually end up doing anyway. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create, bang this up. I'm going to create a, how can I do this? Put some of this stuff away. I'm going to create a slight chamfer, very shallow, in the middle of the drawer front at the bottom. And the idea is to make it so that when that engages, when the drawer front engages this, that little chamfer will allow it to ride up without hearing that bang. So what I'm going to do, I prefer to do it this way. Now, if you're wondering why I'm so careful when I set the plane down, I don't want to bump it and upset or throw it out of whack. I got that blade set for an extremely fine cut, and it wouldn't take much of a bump to disturb that. I need a little more blade. I'm just going to go in here. More blade. Now I angle it like that so that I can get the blade as close to the right in here as possible. And then when I go over here, spin it around so I can exit and keeping me as close as possible. I want this to be really shallow, meaning not like that, but like this, so that, like I said, it'll allow the drawer front to ride up or up and over that part of the frame that it's otherwise hitting.
We're at 48 minutes.
You're serious?
Yeah.
Oh, time flies and we're having fun. Okay, 48 minutes and there's where we are. To pick it up right there tomorrow, and we'll get down to that final little bit of getting that thing to close in there. I'm going to have to go in here and put a screw right in there. Hate doing that even though it's going to be completely covered, but I got to be able to hold on to something. Okay, if you have any questions, ask them. Certainly try to get to as many as possible. If you are interested in trying our online workshop, remember, the link is on there. You can try it for free for a month. You have to register. At the end of the month, if you don't like it, just cancel. But there's a ton of information and all kinds of builds, both furniture we built with nothing but hand tools and stuff we built with a combination of both hand and power tools. See you tomorrow.